Well, hey everybody, welcome to the MenoLounge. I'm Julie Gordon-White, CEO of Menopause Energy and Protein Bars. And I just want to ask you, did you know that the boxes open like this? So that way I keep this on my desk over there. So when the hunger strikes and 15 Zoom meetings later, I'm not reaching for something yucky. So I just want to let you know, I didn't know. Did you know that the box opens just like that? Keep them on your desk, save your life. Okay, I'm going to bring up our guest because we can never get enough sleep, and we don't get enough sleep. So I have a most amazing guest. She might be in a most amazing location. Also, Dr. Val, the Sleep Gal. Hello.
Hi, Julie. How are you?
Oh, I actually had a good night's sleep last night because I
Oh,
took
love it.
off the big heavy comforter off my bed.
Yeah.
Finally. But that's not the best and only way. So I'm so excited to have you. Are you coming to us from California or Hawaii today?
I'm in California today. I know. Thanks for asking. I have a practice in Hawaii. I used to live there, but I'm actually based in California now.
Got it. Well, any excuse to get back to Hawaii is often. So when I make an appointment with you, we're going to meet in Hawaii,
Yeah,
not
let's
in
do
Southern
it.
California.
Sounds wonderful.
I love it. Well, I'm so excited to have you because, as you know, along with hot flashes and weight gain, lack of sleep is one of the most important things or pressing things or stressful things that keeps women up during the stages of menopause as our hormones are going nuts. So super excited. I know you've got some great tips. We're going to talk. And so tell us first, Dr. Valerie Cacho, I should say,
It's
integrative
fun.
sleep medicine doctor. Um, how did you get started going down the path of being interested in improving sleep, and why an integrative approach versus take a sleep pill?
Yeah, great question. I would say I've always been interested in preventive health. If we can prevent, stave off chronic disease, then, you're going to be in a better place, if you're less at risk for developing chronic conditions. And my father actually is a cardiologist. And so probably at the opposite end of the
Yeah.
spectrum, working a lot, not sleeping much. He did interventions, would rush to the hospital in the middle of the night
Yeah.
for people who are having heart attacks. And I was like, that life is not for me. And then one of his good friends is actually a sleep doctor. And I heard him give a lecture, and I thought it was just fascinating because beyond nutrition, beyond exercise, we know those things are really good. We don't often talk about sleep. And this was like really over 20 years ago. And then when I was practicing in Hawaii, I was working for a huge hospital system. There was a lot of women who would come in. And in those days, I would just really run the lab, do sleep studies, make sure they don't have sleep apnea. And after that, I was like, well, go back to your doctor, maybe see a therapist. And I just didn't have a lot of things to give them.
Yeah.
And as I sort of dived into this field, there's so many things that we can do, and maybe so many reasons that someone going through perimenopause and menopause does struggle with sleep. And honestly, for me, it's like right around the corner. So it's almost like, well, I want to prepare myself. I've always been a super prepared type person, but there's so many women struggling with this, and then just not a lot of good answers and options for
No.
them. So
I love it. So you said, okay, I can be the person.
yeah.
I'm going to be Dr. Val, the sleep gal. So let's talk about you working with midlife women who are coming to you and they're saying, Dr. Val, I'm waking up in the middle of the night. Yes, I have hot flashes and night sweats. And let's talk about some of the holistic approaches that you might share with them to help them get their sleep back on track.
Yeah, such a great question. And when I think holistically, I think of the whole body, because oftentimes, really in medicine, specifically Western medicine, we've chopped up the body in all specific parts. You can see a surgeon for your thumb, you can see a surgeon just for your retina, right? And so we often lose the fact that, our brains and our bodies and our souls are all connected. So for women who are having a hard time staying asleep, those 2, 3 a.m. awakenings, I like to break it down mind, body, and soul. So what's going on? Is your brain really racing? Are you having ruminating thoughts? Is it hormone related where now you have more anxiety or more worries that, weren't there before? Body, could you have developed sleep apnea, right? Snoring,
That was
gasping, or choking?
one of the things I wanted to ask you about too. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about that specifically because you think of sleep apnea for men, not really women,
Yeah.
but but we'll talk about that in a
Yeah,
dedicated way. Okay.
that's the whole thing. Yeah, so breathing issues, blood sugar issues. I was just talking to someone about how chocolate is impacting her ability to fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Caffeine can certainly do that. As we get older, beyond just breathing things, we start to develop health conditions like diabetes, which causes us to wake up to urinate. We can be on medication for blood pressure, and that can disrupt our sleep. And then we have pain, right? Frozen shoulder, aches and pains can be more common, and that can keep us from
Okay, I'm
sleeping
gonna
well.
start crying, Dr. Val.
We can keep going. The list keeps going, Julie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. Yes, and so having that holistic approach,
Mm-hmm.
what do you tell women who are going through some or all of those things that we
Yeah.
go through?
Well, I like to really focus in on what's bothering her, the person in front of me. And it's for those magic wand questions. If I could fix your sleep, what would that look like?
Mm.
Because it gives a good place to start with. For me, being a medical sleep doctor, I want to run sleep studies on everybody because that's the common thing and that's the easy fix, right? If you can't stay asleep because you're not breathing well, let me help you work with that. But for some people, that's not their primary concern.
Mm.
Maybe it is the hot flashes. Maybe they're more concerned about the ruminating thoughts and their stress keeping them up. And so I like to really focus in on what's bothering her and how I can support her on her sleep health journey.
I love it. Okay, so let's zero in on ruminating thoughts and the stress related to that. So I used to call it before I started MenoWell, I used to call it the 3 a.m. board meeting that you got invited to that you didn't
Yeah.
want to be at, I could say that now too. But
Yeah.
so what do you do when you've got those those anxious racing thoughts that you thought, you fall asleep, but then you wake up in the middle of the night and maybe you don't even have a hot flash. You're just waking up and then you can't go back to sleep. What do we do with that?
Yeah, and I think it's taking a step back and then just recognizing what it is. It's my mind is having that, sometimes we call it the monkey brain, sort of swinging from branch to branch, or the toddler brain, or the dog chasing its tail. And depending on, I guess, how frustrated you are in the situation, I like to think of it as a gradation scale because I'm not like an all or none kind of person, right? If you're having these thoughts, it's waking you up, but maybe you learned some breathing exercises. Maybe you know about meditation and you're having them, you're noticing them, but they're not too disruptive. Okay, you can just stay in bed. Say, let's grade it as like a low scale, like a 1, 2, or 3. You have them, they're there, they're not so annoying. 3, 4, 5, or 4, 5, 6, right? Maybe you're having these thoughts, you're getting a little bit frustrated, but okay, maybe you're able to calm yourself down. So you hang out in bed for another 10, 15 minutes. 6, 7, 8, oh my goodness, they're too strong. They're like 10, I just can't calm myself down. I got all these things to do tomorrow, all these emails and meetings. Okay, let's just get out of bed. Because the more you feel frustrated, right? The more you feel upset and annoyed, that keeps you from sleeping. And sometimes people just lay there willing themselves out of it. But sometimes you just have to remove yourself from the situation, get yourself in a different environment, shift things up, wait till you're tired again, and then go back to sleep. So that's something that you can do in the middle of the night. Really, what I think is helpful is the daytime activities that you're doing. Are you giving yourself that time to pause, right? And it doesn't have to be a lot of time. For some of the people that I work with, can you give yourself 5 minutes, set a timer, maybe right after lunch, right after dinner, middle of the day, and just write down those random ruminating thoughts that come into your mind at night. Give them some place to go, right? And then at night when the thoughts come up, be a bouncer, right? You know what a bouncer is? You go to a club, you go to a restaurant, they only let certain people in.
You're not
And it's
invited.
right.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
gotta
you're not
go.
invited. It's like, why are we having this board meeting at 3 a.m.? Like we're going to have it at 10 a.m. instead. And just really be strict on that. I have a scheduled time to do this thinking, to let my thoughts sort of run wild. Imagine like the toddler, right? You're going to let the toddler have its tantrum during the daytime. And at night, just be really clear. All right, brain, I know you want to do this, but it's not the right time.
I love that. So really just, and I've done that, sometimes I would forget, but just, if you wake up in the middle of the night and I would say to myself that nothing is going to be solved right now. So we'll work on this, in the morning. And that actually helps when I remember it, sometimes like, I don't remember. But I love the idea about getting up. If it's a 6, 7, 8, or beyond, it's like a real thought you can't shake. Get up, because the opposite of that, I talk to a lot of women, instead they go on their phone.
I know the phones are tricky for so many reasons. And I think one of the biggest is the blue light. When you have too much light, it delays or keeps your melatonin from coming out. Melatonin is a natural sleep hormone. As we get older, some of the research shows we have less melatonin, and we need all the melatonin we can. Another thing with our phone, it's an emotional thing, right? We watch shows on our phone, we watch the news, right? And those can bring in mixed emotions. We check our emails on the phone, we're social on our phone. So if you're able maybe just to go right to an app, right to a sort of a meditative type state with your phone, I think that's helpful. For me, for some reason, sometimes I just grab my phone and instantly I feel like Instagram is on. And I'm like, wait, I was going to check my bank account. How did this happen?
Scrolling,
It's really habitual. And so that's sort of my caution with the phone, that it brings up a lot of emotions that may not be promoting for your sleep, especially in the middle of the night. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's no fun. I really try, I'm not going to say I put my phone in another room, because I don't.
I don't.
But I try to be disciplined about, even in the morning when I wake up, not going straight to social media, not even going to my email, going to some calming music or something like that. Otherwise, or just leave the thing there for a minute, it never goes away. So you don't have to touch it all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. How about some women? So I talked to some of our Meno peeps before this. Restless leg came up a lot, like hot legs at night. Thoughts on that? Any suggestions? Because the covers, I know, are part of it, but it's kind of a strange thing that when you feel these hot legs in the middle, and you're just like, waking up, throwing off the covers.
Yeah. So maybe we could break this down into two things, right? Hot legs and then restless leg syndrome. So restless leg syndrome, is actually a medical sleep condition that's genetics. It can run in your family. So talk to the folks in your life if they have a hard time falling asleep because their legs feel either creepy crawly, electric sensation, or energy, and it gets better with movement. So that's one component. It gets better with movement, but it has a circadian rhythm to it, meaning it's worse at the end of your day or at night. And if it keeps you from falling asleep at least 2 to 3 times a week, then this is something that should be addressed, whether it be by checking your iron levels, your ferritin levels, which, if we're going through perimenopause and menopause, maybe we're still having our periods, then our iron levels could be low, or if we're having heavy periods, or depending on our diet, maybe we aren't eating, iron sources, and that can be associated with it as well. So restless leg symptoms and urge to move your legs gets worse in the evening, gets better with movement, and it's associated with decreased iron in your brain. So a blood test can help rule that out. Taking iron supplements, increasing, iron sources of food can be really helpful. And then the nighttime, right? So what happens as we go through perimenopause and menopause, we lose estrogen, or estrogen fluctuates, and it causes our core body temperature to rise. And sleep is pretty much the opposite of that, right? Just think if you have fruit outside in the summertime, it gets hot, it decays faster. You want to be in the refrigerator, right? You can put all your apples in the fridge, and that helps support our sleep, right? We're sort of in a hibernation type mode, and if we have a higher thermostat, it's harder to sleep. So I think someone talked about cooling pads. Yes, those certainly can help if you have the ability to turn down your room to a temperature that's really comfortable. Sometimes I just sleep with 1 foot out and 1 foot in, right? Because I
freeze out my husband. He's gotten used to just leave the window all the way open. Extra blanket for you, no blanket for me, that kind of thing.
Yeah. But it's really about finding what's most comfortable for you, to be honest. Yeah. And as you said that, I need to change out my comforter. It's getting too warm for that now. Yeah. But so feeling warm is the opposite of sleep because it's uncomfortable. And so finding a way to sort of allow that to go down. And some of the research actually shows around temperatures as we go through the change, women who are postmenopausal actually gets better because your core body temperature actually ends up lowering overall. So there is hope, ladies.
There's hope. I love it. And Kailu Silk, magnesium and silk filled duvets. She has beautiful fabric. Yes.
Yeah, magnesium can help with those symptoms.
All those
it can help relax the leg. Yeah.
And last week we had Loan on, who's co-founder of Amir Health. Cooling pads. Like, try everything. I think that this is one of the fun things about menopause is that there are now all these really interesting products to try.
Definitely.
And people, I think sometimes we feel like, oh, I invested in this one thing, it didn't work for me, but I think it's a part of the journey to
Yeah.
try different things. And if it doesn't work for you, you can pass it on to your girlfriend because she could try
Right.
it too.
Definitely. Great
But
idea.
it's like trying the bars, like just try them, see if you like it, that
For
kind of
sure.
thing. Because all of these products are new, and
Yeah.
the conversation is new. And so we get to be pioneers in all of this and trying it out. So
Yeah.
I love it.
Definitely.
Okay, Dr. Lisa Mosconi just came out, with
Mm.
her wonderful book about women and menopause in the brain, and now she's got these great scans. So the impact of sleep on our brain. Can we talk about that? No.
Yeah, I see that as this side. So many things to think about because if you don't get good sleep, and I'm probably the first to know that I get more irritable. So moodiness, definitely. Memory, even spelling simple things makes it a lot harder. If you think of your body when you're asleep, your computer even has a sleep mode, right? Your brain needs rest. And if it's working harder because you're up all night, having hot flashes or worrying about things or not breathing well, then that can lead to difficulty with your memory, right? Your brain needs to slow down and relax. With that said, it always depends on treating the underlying cause. And so if we can get better quality sleep, whatever that means for you, then eventually, right, I think you'll be in better brain health overall. And then we can talk specifically about different stages of sleep. There's 1 and 2, which are considered light, stage 3, which is the deep sleep. And that's when we actually have the trash collectors of the day. I mean, the trash collectors of the night come out because we have toxins that build up throughout the day. When you eat food, you're thinking, your brain's working, all the metabolic processes. And if you get deep sleep, that's when the lymphatic system gets turned out, those toxins get cleaned out, and then we do a lot better, right? And so making sure you get an adequate amount of sleep, at least 7 hours if you can. And then if you have an underlying sleep condition, make sure that's treated.
So when you're talking deep sleep, is that REM sleep that you're talking about, or something?
It's a separate stage. Great question. I didn't clarify that. So the 4 stages are 1 and 2, which are considered light. Stage 3, sometimes we call it delta wave sleep. That's the deep sleep. And their brain waves go really, really slow. So if you're looking at the brain waves in the lab, they're really slow, and the point to point are deep. So that's what we call the deep sleep as well. And then REM sleep, it's actually its own stage. We don't consider it deep sleep. It's its own separate entity. Your brainwaves are actually going pretty fast because you're having your dreams, and your brains are pretty active. So if you wake up out of a dream state, you're actually quite awake. If you're waking up out of a deep sleep, that's when we feel that sleep inertia. We feel really groggy. It's hard to get going because our brainwaves are going really slow.
Interesting. So as a menopausal woman who's waking up maybe once or twice a night, and then you get to the morning, which I've found many times, like that morning sleep is really good from 4 to 7, even though a lot of times I get up before that, but probably because I'm finally getting some deep sleep. But if it goes too far, then you can feel groggy, right? So
yeah, it's all
there's a lot happening there.
Yeah, exactly, for sure.
So is there an optimal time to wake up so we don't try to wake up during the deep sleep?
That's a good question. And there are some commercially available like watches and apps that will wake you up out of REM sleep or a lighter stage instead of deep sleep. I like to encourage folks really just to listen to your body. And I think that's one thing that we're learning as we go through this phase is, when does your body feel sleepy? Because I feel like on the opposite end, we're missing that. When do you start to yawn? When do your eyes go heavy? When does your brain start to slow? When is your clock, your internal clock, your circadian rhythm telling you to go to sleep?
Right.
So that's number 1. Can you figure out when you should go to sleep and go to sleep? And then if you have the opportunity, just allow your body to sleep as much as you need. Ideally, it's at least 7 to 9 hours. And then if you don't use an alarm clock, your body should naturally wake yourself up. And this is just sort of outside if we have a hot flash. But really, you want to work within your own circadian rhythm of when your body's ready to go to sleep and when it's time to wake up.
Excellent. I love that. And so, I start yawning at like 8:30, but I don't want to go to bed at 8:30. So does yawning, is that your body's way of telling you, okay, time to start getting ready? Or what does that mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't, or my husband is saying something that's really boring to me. I don't know. Hope he's not watching. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I mean, no problem at all. Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely if you're bored, but if you're tired, and I think it also depends on how much sleep you're typically getting. So when we take a look at sleep, we have something called the sleep triad. And so one of them, the things we talked about, it's your internal clock or your circadian rhythm,
Right.
right? Is that in alignment of your bedtime and your wake up time? The second we talked a lot about also is the ruminating thoughts. If you have a hard time falling asleep or staying asleep, it's because your brain is too hyper aroused. The third thing we didn't talk about is our sleep pressure or our homeostatic drive. And all that is the longer we're awake, the sleepier you get. So if you had a bad night the night before or a couple nights before and you're sleep deprived, you're probably going to start to yawn, after dinner, right after work, a little bit earlier. Some people actually do have a little bit of a phase adjustment where we call it advanced sleep phase syndrome. Maybe around 7 or 8, they do start to get sleepy. Versus being a night owl, delayed sleep phase when your true clock is maybe 2 or 3 a.m. So it's, again, knowing your circadian rhythm. If on average you're getting at least 7 hours of sleep at night and you do feel sleepy around 8:30, maybe your clock is a little bit shifted. But if that's too early for you, you can use light, right? So light in the evening pushes your clock to sleep later. And then light in the morning time is really good for night owls who want to sleep earlier because that turns your clock back so that you can fall asleep a little bit earlier.
I love that. I know Dr. Huberman, right, is always
Yeah.
talking about the morning light
Yeah.
and
That's really important.
right, and our circadian rhythm. I like that. And now that we are in summer months and it's lighter later, I find that, you just go to bed a little bit later naturally because you don't want to go to bed when it's light outside because people give you a hard time about that. Health Coach Angela says, what do you think about the Aura Ring?
Well, I love what they've done for sleep in general, right? Because I think for a long time, especially here in the US, right, sleep is seen sort of an afterthought, right? We were really good about talking about diet and nutrition, but it was like, I'll sleep when I'm dead, I'll sleep when I'm retired, sleep is for the weak, or sleep is for the lazy. So I love how I think the narrative is shifting around that. And when you're using a fitness tracker and any tracker that you use, I always think it depends on why. So for some of the people that I work in my medical sleep practice who have insomnia and they start using a fitness tracker, a sleep tracker, it actually can make their sleep worse. So there's actually a condition called
orthosomnia. It creates anxiety, like a Whoop watch, right? Like, I only slept this percent. I mean, it's good to have data, but you can also add a whole nother layer of anxiousness on top of it.
So if it's making you anxious, okay, please stop because that's opposite of sleep. If it's helping you make the changes you want. So maybe you're a person that alcohol is impacting your ability to fall asleep, or caffeine is impacting or stay asleep. Exactly. And then you make a change. And so what is the Oura Ring going to do? Is the data going to change sort of pre and post? So use it as your own sort of like research experiment. If you change your activity, you change your behavior and you see an improvement, or you see something, that you don't want to see, maybe less deep sleep, then that's probably why. But tracking for the sake of tracking, it always depends on, well, what am I going to do with this data? If it's helpful, good. If it's not helpful, okay. Yeah, maybe give it a break.
That's a good point. Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's what data's for, right? It's to have information, but do you have to track forever?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk about weight gain when you're not sleeping. There's so many studies around we lose weight when we're sleeping, or we gain weight when we don't sleep. Can you help us with the myths and the truths and the reality of those statements?
Yeah. A great question. So when you don't get an adequate amount of sleep, and some of the research we look at is actually 6 hours or less, higher rates of metabolic syndrome, which is higher rates of sort of the bad cholesterol, higher rates of blood sugar levels as well. And the reason for that is your insulin doesn't work as well, right? Talking about our brain again, talking about our body, your body isn't meant to sort of run for too long without resting. And so if we don't rest, then the processes are going to work harder and then they don't work as well. So we know from research where we've sleep deprived healthy adults, healthy college kids, what happens is that their hormones of appetite, specifically leptin, puts the brake on eating. Ghrelin makes you want to eat more. Those get a little bit flip-flopped. And so what happens when you're not getting enough sleep, I also know from like nurses' health studies where, if you do shift work, you work overnight, you just have the opportunity to eat more.
Right.
And the things that you are eating, right, are the simple carbohydrates. So then quote sort of junk food.
No one's
it gives you quick
broccoli at midnight.
Exactly. I know. Does ice cream taste better at, the middle of the night rather than earlier? So that's the thing. And, some women think about it's willpower. I just don't have enough strong of a will. But it's really like by your biologic process that your body is craving fuel, which you get quick fuel from these type of foods. But, what you really need is actually to get better sleep. Yeah. So that's sort of a twofold. Your metabolism isn't working as well when you're not sleeping well, and then it's inflammatory, and your insulin doesn't work well, and then you're just craving those sort of quick fuel foods that if we don't burn them off, then it just sort of sticks around our bodies and goes into our fat.
Yeah, dang it. But that's good. I mean, because that way we can help manage our middle and get our good sleep. If we, I do try to do kitchen close in the winter at 7, in the summer push it to 8 o'clock because we're just up later. But something like that, which helps really, not add those extra calories when ice cream tastes better, like no, skip that because I'm not eating broccoli. So might as well just close the kitchen. Done.
That's a good way to think about it. Yeah. Brush your teeth, because after you brush your teeth, right, then you don't want to eat again. So brush your teeth earlier.
Although I've been known to brush my teeth and then still eat something.
Still snack.
So. But it's a good idea, right? The intention is there. Right. Okay, so let's talk about apnea, because I just thought men got apnea. Women who are healthy are getting apnea also. Is this a new trend, or is it just new to me?
Well, I would say let's blame science again. So before 1993, I think, women weren't included in medical research. And a lot of the way we practice medicine is really for the adult male, unfortunately, right? We know this in menopause as well. Up to 40% of women who potentially could have obstructive sleep apnea don't even have the classic symptoms, which are snoring, gasping, and choking, or stopping breathing. What women present with, and let me actually take a step back, what is sleep apnea to begin with? It's physical obstruction of your upper airway. Typically, it's the tongue or the muscles more downstream. And at night when you sleep, all your muscles relax. Sometimes your muscles relax a little bit too much to the point where your airway narrows and collapses. And when that happens, your brain's like, hey, I need oxygen. I need to wake up and breathe. Opens and you fall back asleep, and it narrows and closes again. So if this happens only 5 times an hour or greater on a sleep test, then that's diagnostic for sleep apnea. What do we know about women, especially women in perimenopause? Well, rates double to triple. So perimenopause and menopause, right? As we get older, we lose the estrogen and progesterone, and that makes things, a little bit more floppy all over our body, but even within our neck. And then aging in and of itself. So above the age of 50, our muscles tone isn't as strong, and so that can cause a collapse as well. What do women present with? Well, insomnia, fatigue, difficulty staying asleep, moodiness, or morning headaches. And guess what? That can look like a lot of things. And so if your doctor isn't thinking, okay, this could be sleep apnea, what often we see is you get a blood test for your thyroid, or you get sent home with an antidepressant medication, or you get sent to a therapist because, you're just a busy person. You have a lot going on, and that's why you're tired. And then you talk to your friends and they're all tired too. So this should be normal, but it's really not. And, up to 90% of women who potentially could have sleep apnea are undiagnosed. So
especially with those symptoms, it reminds me of a cardiac event, or stroke or heart attack, where women present so differently, and she thought she had the flu or just tired, when actually there's something serious going on with her heart. Same thing with sleep apnea. Very interesting.
Exactly. And so I would always say, if you have difficulty staying asleep, it's worthwhile to do the test. And it's so easy now. Sometimes people don't want to do it because they don't want to go to a lab. They don't want all those wires on or someone watching you. You can do it in the comfort of your own home. There are some that are just, like a watch and a finger probe. I use one at my clinic that are just patches, one patch underneath your right rib cage, another one over your belly button. And it's pretty simple. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, good. Well, we're going to tell everybody where they can find you so they can do this. I think this is really important. And I don't think we talk enough about apnea, especially in perimenopause and menopause. as one of the significant contributors potentially to our sleep issues. We blame everything on estrogen,
Yeah.
everything on hormones, but they lead that change of hormones leads to things, and I don't think we talk a lot about this. So
Yeah.
this is really good. All right, so we're going to share in a second. Okay, I want to talk about, I know you have some tips, which we've already started kind of running through some of those, but I wanted just to touch on hypnotherapy
Oh,
to
yeah.
help you sleep.
Yes. Sometimes I forget that I'm trained in it, to be honest. So, clinical hypnotherapy is so useful. And really, when we think about hypnotherapy, oftentimes I think Hollywood has it portrayed as, the cartoon guys holding the watch and
Right,
you're just looking back and forth, and then you start clucking like a chicken.
right.
But really, what it is, it's using the power of your brain. It's neuroscience, right? We have our conscious mind and then we have our subconscious mind. And so, what clinical hypnotherapy does, it helps improve any type of behavior that you're interested in doing, whether it be smoking cessation, weight loss. There's even been research for hot flashes. Since I'm a medical sleep doctor, I use it for insomnia, for people who have a hard time falling asleep or staying asleep, or even people who have a hard time using their CPAP mask because they're claustrophobic. And so, what clinical hypnotherapy is you help someone go into a trance-like state, which is just really a meditative state where your brain waves are really, really slow. And in that state, I just add a lot of positive words, positive affirmation. You're a great sleeper. You can fall asleep, you can stay asleep, your bed is really comfortable. When you wake up, you're really refreshed, you can start the day. For hot flashes, it's, imagine you're underneath a really cool waterfall. Maybe you're in Hawaii and it's a perfect day. And as you're standing there, the cool water is dripping from down from your head to your toe. You just feel this wave of comfort overcoming you. And when you do feel warm at night, you're not bothered by it because you're in such a cool and comfortable place and it's inviting. And so just really using all that kind of imagery, bringing in all the senses, and you record it. And so when someone's asleep, then you actually listen to this because it goes into your subconscious mind. You're building new neural pathways and you start to believe, right? Then it goes from like down up that, I can get good sleep. Like I can control these symptoms and they don't have to bother me as much as they used to.
Wow.
So it's
Wow.
fun.
I'm waiting for that recording right now. Just as you were saying all that, I could just feel my body just like, whew, just
Melt
calming
into
down.
it.
Really beautiful.
Yeah.
So good. Love it. Love it. I
Thank you.
love those kinds of tips and tools to help women because we don't have to take, no judgment, so don't get mad, but we don't have to take, sleeping pills and all those things. I mean, unless we need to. If you need to, do what you need to do.
Yeah.
But there's other things that also actually enhance those kinds of remedies as well. So very
Completely.
cool. Okay,
Yeah.
let's talk about some tips. Although that was freaking amazing, we could just stop right there, Dr. Val, Sleep Gal. But what else? What other tips do you have for women that are really trying to go to sleep, stay asleep during peri and menopause and post?
Yeah, I think number one, my tip is always make sleep a priority because guess what? If you're sleeping well, ladies, then your emotions, you're going to be able to control them more. You're going to be
Yes.
able to move your body more, help make healthier decisions in and around food. And it just makes life, I think, a lot easier when you get good quality sleep. And if you are struggling with sleep, then talk to someone about it, whether it be your primary care physician. There's online sleep platforms that you can go to. You don't even have to see a sleep doctor necessarily. There's an online program called Lofta where you can just get a kit mailed to you and see if you have that. So there are resources available. I want to talk about nutrition and, maybe the MenoWell bar. If there's a high fiber type bar, that's something to consider because the food that we can consume, especially in the later half of the day, can impact our sleep quality.
Mm-hmm.
So you really do want to try to avoid, food with high fat. Saturated fats are associated with more arousals. Foods high in sugar can cause you to wake up more. And so if you eat things that have more fiber in it, then it can help you stay asleep and even go into those deeper stages of sleep, which is really, really key. Yeah.
Wow, I'm going to put that on the bars now.
Yeah.
Sleep aid. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I love it. That's
It can
great.
help.
I'm going to sneak in here. Francis Yoga Universe says, what about sleep herbs?
Sleep herbs. So remember, sleep happens when your brain waves slow down. And so there are certain plants that can help with that. Valerian root, I think, is really common. Oral lavender. So even aromatherapy, smelling the lavender, but there are oral lavender tablets that you can take. Chamomile has been also shown to be really helpful. And so they certainly can help. Think of it just as like an aid, right? If it helps, good. But, you know, I always like to say, all of like the meditation, all of the pills, all the supplements don't open up your airway if you can't sleep because you're not breathing well. So I always like to plug in, you know, make sure that you don't have sleep apnea, and then try some of these things if you have a hard time staying asleep. Yeah, but they can be helpful.
Huge, huge. Okay, there you go, Frances. Okay, so keep going down your tips. That was so good. All right.
Ooh, what else are we talking about now?
I didn't know if you had any more tips. I don't know, because you've given so many sleep nuggets here that
I would say journaling is so huge, especially for ruminating thoughts. If you can spend 5 minutes, if not even 2 minutes, just writing down your thoughts. And then when you do wake up in the middle of the night, or even before you fall asleep and your brain is just going and going, the 5 senses exercise. Have you heard of that one, Julie?
No.
Yeah, this one is phenomenal. So just imagine a place that you really enjoy being, whether it be your own bedroom or maybe you went to a nice resort or vacation. And just imagine you're in that space. And then in that space, just name 5 things that you can see. So since I work with a lot of patients in Hawaii, a lot of people like going to the beach.
I went straight to the beach in Lahui. That's exactly where I went when you said that. One of my favorite places. Yeah. Okay,
you're at the beach in Lahui. What are 5 things that you can see there? It's a perfect day. Maybe you're by yourself. Maybe you're with your partner. Maybe with your family. What are 5 things that you can see when you're there? And then we go next. 4 things that you can feel. 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste, right? Because if you're imagining yourself, you're there in Lahui, it's a beautiful day, it's so calm, you have so much enjoyment, it's hard to be frustrated, really. It's hard to be angry, right? If you're focused really on that, because you want to anchor your thoughts on something that's pleasant, something that's calm, something that's comfortable, and then just allow your body to sleep. Yeah, because I think sometimes we try so hard to like force ourselves into sleep. But just like when you're exercising, right? When you're doing your bicep curls, you have to like flex your muscles, but then you have to relax your muscles. And so that's what sleep is. It's that relaxation phase. It's not that, you know, active when you're clenching everything. It's at the relaxation part. And so just realizing that and knowing it and how we can make that system stronger and stronger, you'll be a better sleeper, probably even starting tonight.
Absolutely. I already feel like I need to go take a nap, like right after this, or not need to, want to. So it's the deliciousness. I find sleep so delicious. I've always enjoyed sleep, and not afraid, you know, to go to bed. I don't know. I think it's good.
Fine.
There's good stuff.
I think napping too is really helpful. And I feel like if you've gone to a place in your life where you have the opportunity to nap, allow yourself to nap. Like, don't see it as, you know, sort of for lazy people. But I think we just do too much, right? The narrative is just like keep going, keep hustling, have a job, have a side hustle, right? Help as many people as possible, which is fantastic. But you know, it's okay to slow down, right? Because the more you rest, the more you take breaks, right? Your brain works better, your heart works better, right? Your body's more functioning at where it should be. So
I find them energizing. It's actually one of the tenets of our Menopause to take a nap, you know?
Yay.
And so what do you believe about 10 minutes or 20 minutes? Don't sleep too much too long, because then you're too sleepy. Can you give us a little tip on that?
Exactly. So timing, right? Remember we talked about those 4 stages of sleep? They repeat itself every about 90 minutes. So if you stick around maybe to 20 to 30 minutes, you're probably going to stay in the light stages, which is good, so that you don't wake up too groggy when you're in a deep sleep. And another thing too is timing. You know, the rule of thumb is about 3 p.m. If you sleep or if you take a nap too late, it affects that homeostatic drive, right? The longer awake, the sleepier you get. And if you take a nap too late and too long, it lowers that drive. So you'll find yourself falling sleepier late, you know, feeling sleepier later. And so if you want to sleep at 10 and then you take that hour nap at 5, okay, maybe you're not going to feel sleepy until after midnight, which can affect you the next day.
Wow. Okay. So good. I can't wait for all the reels from this, because there's so many yummy tips that women can use that I don't think we talk about all the time. So really good. Okay. So how are women going to find you in Hawaii and find you in Southern California or online so they can get all your sleep goodness? And just to remind women, you know, we should be tested for sleep apnea. I think it's just it should be part of our normal annual testing, especially over 45. I don't know, when you're perimenopausal, because it could really be contributing to why you're not sleeping and you don't even know it because you're not snoring like your husband is snoring or your partner's snoring. We're doing other things. So how do we figure this out without going into the lab too? That's another part of this.
Yeah.
All that, Dr. Valerie. Okay,
Yeah.
how can we find you and get all of your sleep goodness?
Wonderful, Julie. Thanks for asking. So if you're in Hawaii or California, those are the states I'm licensed in. My medical practice is Sleep Life Med, Sleep Life Med. Or if you're not in those states, or if you're just looking for tips around women's health and whole living, Sleephoria is my brand for that. I have a lot of YouTube videos, so you can check me out over on YouTube, and I have a newsletter. You can sign up as well.
Really good. And follow you at Dr. Val, the Sleep Gal at Instagram.
Yeah.
And you do telemed appointments too, correct?
I do, yeah. So I'm based in California. If you want to see me in person, I'm at a clinic in Los Alamitos, which is just south of Long Beach. And then, yeah, if you're in other parts of California, Hawaii, it's all telemedicine.
I love that. And I think telemedicine is so important for women in the stages of menopause because we can't all get to the places, right? Yeah. And there's not a lot of doctors that understand what we're going through. That's a whole other show. So leveraging technology and being able to meet over video is really super fantastic. So make sure you make your appointment with Dr. Val, the Sleep Gal. So cute. Love it, love it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
I should ask you, final question, what does it mean to you to meno well?
Oh, I think to meno well is being part of a community that supports you and understands what you're going through. Because sometimes you can feel so alone and you feel just awful, but I bet you there are thousands and probably millions of women that are right there with you and they're going to support you along your journey.
Oh, I love that so much. Absolutely. Connection with other women feeds the soul. Beautiful. Yeah. Better than medicine.
Well, better than medicine, yes.
Mostly, yeah. Thank you so much. I'd love
pleasure.
To have you on again. There's so much that we can talk about with sleep. We just did a nice overview today, and then we can go deeper on some other topics too. So thank you so much for all you're doing.
My pleasure.
All right.
Sleep well, everyone. Bye-bye.
Be well. Talk to you next time. Take care. Meno well.
Meno well.